Hello, good morning, folks. Today we are finally starting with the fetching data from server, and I'm quite glad that we are able to make through all of them, like basics to like fundamental server-side rendering, not server-side, but like basic rendering and strategies and management and stuff like that. And I'm kind of have like I'm proud of myself because now I can understand this all jargons like keyword refs, events, and render drops and conditional rendering, like what it is. Before like following this course, I have literally no clue of what exactly is, and yeah, and it felt pretty depressing. But no, right now I'm feeling good. Let's start with this new chapter. Let me see. Okay, I forgot to open my VS Code. Let's quickly open this. While it's opening, let's say we start reading, getting data from server. For a while now, we have only been working on front end. For example, client side browser functionality. We will begin working on backend. For example, server side functionality in the third part. With now the code executing in the browser communicates with the backend. Let's use a tool meant to be used during software development called JSON server, act as our server. Okay, so what is that? Get a full fake REST API with zero coding in less than 30 seconds. Seriously, I wonder if I can. All I have to do is create a database or database JSON file. Inside that, I have used JSON server, and I would like to have something like this. Okay, then I would like to start the server. Let me create all this. Inside my rather than part 2, I would like to create part 3. Let's see, just a minute. See this one part 2 server nodes. Uh, mm, mm, Data from server. So I think I should start with new. I don't know. Let's see. This is really interesting. Like, what exactly it is this? What exactly is it? Create a file named db.json in the root directory of the previous nodes project with the following content. Okay, so they want me to create a root file inside this, which is called db.json. Let me zoom in a little bit so you might folks clearly see cd part 2. I think we are working on the same project, so it should be fine, I guess. Inside this, what they want me to do is copy this and boom. Now let's see the content of this file. So inside this, what I have is a nodes array. Inside that I have some object with key value pairs like ID, content, and important. Wait a minute, isn't it just same we used previously? You can start the JSON server without a separate installation by running the following npx command. Uh, If is that so, then let me write the command JSON server port 3001 db.json. Now see what's happened. Need to install a following package JSON server at beta. Wait, should I install it? Should I install it? It says beta there, so I have my like doubts regarding that, since those are some nasty hacking things going on around in tech industry right now. I I heard that uh, let's say, damn it, this isn't here. See inside the part. What was that? Let me write JSON server port 3000 db.json. Okay, JSON server started on port 3001. Okay. Uh, let's see what it is got. This video is actually amazing. I have here like the basic higher order functions and stuff like that. Although I haven't watched all of it, but I will try to complete this by end of this week. I think today is 15 May, so yeah, I will complete it by next week. Whoa, what the hell is this? So I have some routes inside that. It's seeing the content and manage resources from deep.json. Mm, this is page create publics.index.html. Unique beta v1 document visible but expect breaking change for stable version. See here using React and tired of CSS and JS. See missed CSS. Look, what I know is that it opened something. JSON server start running on port 3000 by default, but we will now define an alternate 3001. Let's navigate to address this in the browser. We can see that JSON server serves the nodes we previously wrote to file in JSON format. If your browser doesn't have a way to format the display of JSON data, then install an appropriate plugin called JSON View to make your life easier. Uh, 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 let's see. I'm not a fan of all those extensions, but I might add it just in case. Oh, let's click on this. Okay, so it's like this. Mm, 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 mm. Okay, this looks good. This looks good. Where I am. Okay, going forward, the idea will be to save the nodes to the server, which in this case means saving them to the JSON server. The React code fetches the nodes from the server and renders them to the screen. Whenever a new node is added to the application, the React code also sends it to the server to make the new node persist in memory. JSON server stores all the data in the db.json file which resides on the server. In the real world, data would be stored in some kind of database. However, JSON server is handy tool that enables the use of server-side functionality in the development phase without the need to program any of it. We will get familiar with the principles of implementing server-side functionality in more detail in part 3 of this course. The browser as a runtime environment, our first task is fetching the already existing nodes to our React application from the database. Our first task is to fetching the already existing nodes to our React application from there. Okay. In the part 0 example project, we already learned a way to fetch data from a server using JavaScript. The code in example was fetching the data using XML HTTP request, otherwise known as an HTTP request made using an XHR object. This is a technique introduced in 1999, which every browser has supported for a good while now. The use of XHR is no longer recommended, and browser already widely support the fetch method. Let's see. Uh, if you guys like, let me quickly read this through. The fetch method of the window interface starts the process of fetching a resource from the network, returning a promise that is fulfilled once the response is available. The promise resolved to the response object representing the response to your request. A fetch promise only rejects when the request fails. For example, because of a badly formed request URL or a network error, fetch promise does not reject if the server responds with HTTP status codes that indicate error 404 or 504, etc. Instead, a then handler must check the response.ok and or response.status properties. The fetch method is controlled by the connect src directory. Content security policy. Okay, so the syntax is like this. So inside this resource, this defines the resource that you wish to fetch. This can either be a stringify including a URL and option, a request initialization, a request init object containing an API custom setting that you want to apply to that request. Okay, got it, got it. Uh, which is based on so-called promises instead of the event-driven model used by XHR. As a reminder from part 0, which one should remember to not use without pressing vision, data was fetched using XHR in the following way. XHTTP, XHTTP on ready state change function. This dot ready state is equal to 4 and HTTP status is 200. Then I get the data. JSON parse this response text and open this file okay. Right at the beginning, we register an event handler to the access HTTP object representing the HTTP request, which will be called by the JavaScript runtime whenever the state of the HTTP object changes. XHTTP. If the change in state means that the response to the request has arrived, then the data is handled accordingly. It is worth noting that the code in the event handler is defined before the request is sent to the server. Despite this, the code within the event handler will be executed at later point in time. Therefore, the code does not execute synchronously from top to bottom, but does so asynchronously. JavaScript calls the event handler that was registered the request at some point. A synchronous way of making requests that's common in Java programming, for instance, would play out as follows. Note, this is not actually working Java code. Okay, I don't want to say some kind of Java because I don't understand it. In Java, the code, blah blah. In contrast, JavaScript engines or runtime environments follow the asynchronous model. Let's see what it's getting me through. Lots of things that I don't understand. Let's remove them. In principle, this requires all input-output operation with some exception to be executed as non-blocking. This means that the code execution continues immediately after calling an input-output function without waiting for it to return. When an asynchronous operation is completed, or more specifically at some point after its completion, the JavaScript engine calls the event handlers register to the operation. Currently, JavaScript engines are single-threaded. which means that they cannot execute code in parallel. As a result, it is a requirement in practice to use non-blocking models for executing I operation. Otherwise, the browser would freeze during, for instance, the fetching of data from the server. One consequences of JavaScript engines being single-threaded is that if code execution takes a long time, the browser becomes unresponsive for the duration of the execution. If the following code is added to the beginning of the app component, let's see, where is my code? It should be so so they want me to put this code here. Let me see what exactly. Set timeout function is something that execute. Uh, it is generally used for execution of some task in a delay. So what they are telling me is that this set timeout will work after 5 seconds since it is mentioned here, and how many time it will run in the delayed execution. Every 5 seconds this set timeout function will run. It will print console, and there is a loop, and let's say I index is starting from 0. If index is this then increment, and so I can pretty much guess it that it's gonna be like work in a while. Okay, everything works normally for 5 seconds. When the function defined as the parameter of settlement is executed, the browser page becomes unresponsive for the duration of the long loop. The page freezes completely, meaning you cannot click its button or use any other functionality. Okay, so yeah, page actually right now the loop is starting. So for the 5 second, my page is literally unresponsive. Let's say I'm not able to click or hear anything. So yeah, it actually become unresponsive for the 5 second duration. So the counter going to be incremented. If I console log it, then I have something called infinite, and the loop will run under all of this under 5 seconds. I have a feeling that my task manager is going loaded. Okay. When the function defined is better, yeah, for the browser to remain responsive, for example, to be able to continuously react to user operation with sufficient speed, the code logic needs to be such that no single computation can take too long. There is a host of additional material on the subject to be found on the internet. One particularly clear presentation of the topic is the keynote by Philip Roberts called "What the Heck is the Event Loop Anyway?" Okay, okay, this. Yeah, I am feeling I have read this through, like I have seen this video, but I didn't understand perfectly. In today's browser, it is possible to run parallelized code with the help of so-called web workers. Yeah, I mean, even in a Node.js, we have threading and clustering this worker. Mm, the event loop of individual browser window is, however, still only handled by a single thread, npm. Let's get back to the topic of fetching data from the server. We could use the previously mentioned promise-based function fetch to pull the data from the server. Fetch is a great tool. It is standardized and supported by all modern browsers, excluding Internet Explorer. That being said, we will be using the Axios library instead of communication between the browser and server. It functions like fetch but is somewhat more pleasant to use. Another good reason to use Axios is that it helps us get familiar with adding external libraries or npm packages to React projects. Nowadays, practically all JavaScript projects are defined using the Node Package Manager, also known as npm. The projects created using Vite also follow the npm format. A clear indicator that a project uses npm is the package.json file located at the root of the project. This one, right? Mm, mm, Okay. At this point, the dependency part is of most interest to us as it defines what dependencies or external libraries the project has. Yep, for example, even in any kind of project that I am working on, the first thing I check is the dependency file for seeing how the project has been set up. Like, do we have a multi-setup project, like various services, which has like a single, I think it in package.json, it was something called, I forgot the name, but I actually forgot the name. I have read it somewhere like it handles multiple packet.json files, or that is one of the case, and also to see what kind of various scripts they are have been using. So theoretically, we could define the library directory in the package, but it is better to install from the command line. Let's see. Inside this, they want me to cd part 2. They want me to install Axios, and boom. Note, npm commands should always be run in the project root directory, which is where the packet.json file can be found. Axios is now included among the other dependencies. Yeah, see, here is the Axios. In addition to adding Axios to the dependency, the npm install command also downloaded the library code. As with other dependencies, the code can be found in the node modules directory located in the root. As one might have noticed, node modules contains a fair amount of interesting stuff. Yeah, and I have seen a lot of unknown directories that I don't see sometimes. It makes me anxious because of hacking going on around now. Let's make another addition. Install JSON server as a development dependency, only used during development by executing the command this. But wait a damn minute. I think I have included that. No, 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 no. Oh yeah, I used npx, right? Okay, as a developer dependency. Okay, and making small addition to the script part of the JSON file. Inside that, I will use npm run server, so it should be starting this. Okay, so now JSON server is there, and I can add another script, which is this. This indentation really got on my nerves. We can now conveniently, without parameter definition, start the JSON server from the project root directory with the command npm server. Can I do this? But before that, I have to clear this way. So all I have to do is npm run server. Boom. We will get more familiar with the npm tool in the third part of the course. Note: the previously started JSON server must be terminated before starting a new one. Otherwise, there will be trouble. La 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 la. Okay. The red print in the error message informs us about the issue. Cannot bind to the port system. Please specify another port number either through port argument or through word JSON file or something like that. Okay. Can JSON server or JSON configuration file. As we can see, the application is not able to bind itself to the port. Reason being the port 3001 is already by the previously started JSON server. Okay. There is a fine difference in the parameters. Axios is installed as a runtime dependency of the application because execution of the program requires the existence of the library. On the other hand, JSON server was installed as a development dependency. Since the program itself doesn't require it, it is used for assistance during software development. There will be more on different dependency in the next part of the course. Axios and promises. Basically, I'm reading through all of this, but before that, let me commit a few of it. G add let's say let's say uh, uh, G add JSON, add DB server file for development. Now what I will do is G not G reset app.jsx uh, gst dot okay. Add loop code to see the app freeze when the timeout mode function execution. Let's say okay, now loop end so I can use it. Mm, Let me quickly comment this out as it might hamper my coding process. And let me reload this. Yeah, Axios and promises. Now we are ready to use Axios. Going forward, JSON server is seem to be running on port 3001. To run JSON server in your React app simultaneously, you may need to use two terminal windows, one to keep JSON server running and the other to run our React application. The library can be brought into use the same way other libraries, that is by using an appropriate import statement. Add the following line in main.jsx. Okay, inside my main.jsx, here what I would need to add is import Axios. Oh, Axios. And where will I be using? Inside this const promise is equal to this axios.get and https with localhost 3001 nodes. Now I will console log this promise and I will have this two times another. uh and here they will say foo bar. So let's see what is happening inside. So cannot get foo bar because it's not exist. Uncaught in promise pending. They are both in pending state. Why? Even though this is working, right? Yep, it's working. Let's see what the other has to say. So if you open this, yep, console is already open. Get returns a promise, but it's in the pending state, right? The documentation on Mozilla site states the following about promises. A promise is an object representing the eventual completion or failure of an asynchronous operation. In other words, a promise is an object that represents an asynchronous operation. A promise can have three distinct states: pending, fulfilled, and rejected. The promise is pending. It means that the asynchronous operation corresponding to the promise has not yet finished and the final value is not available yet. The promise is fulfilled. It means that the operation has been completed and the final value is available, which generally is a successful operation. The promise is rejected. It means that an error prevented the final value from being determined, which generally represent a failed operation. There are many details related to the promise, but understanding these three states is sufficient. For now, if you want, you can read more about privacy in Mozilla's documents. Yeah, I might see all this. Okay, the first promise in our example is fulfilled. Why? It is still like in a pending state. Let me reload this. Yep, in a pending state. Request. The second one, however, is rejected, and the console tells us the reason. It looks like we are trying to make an HTTP GET request to a non-existent address. If and when we want to access the result of the operation, by the promise, we must register an event handler to the promise. This is received using method called then. Okay, so inside my code, I have to do something like this. Promise dot then promise dot then. Inside this, I will have response. What I want to do is console log this response. Now what? Okay, so now I got the data. Man, this is really okay. I'm seeing other things as well. Status text, request headers. Da-na-na-na-na. This is data, and this is config file. Okay. Uh, let's see. Let me read this. I got the data. The JavaScript runtime environment calls the callback function registered by the then method, providing it with a response object as a parameter. The response object contains all the essential data returns related to the response of an HTTP GET request, which would include the returned data, status code, and headers. Storing the promise object in a variable is generally unnecessary, and it's instead common to change the then method call to the exist method call so that it follows it directly. Uh, the callback function now takes the data contained within the response, stores it in a variable, and prints the notes to the console. A more readable way to format change method calls it is to place each call on its own line. On line. Okay, so they want me to do something like this. Let's say they want me to do dot then I'm getting a response, and they would like to give me the response. So it will be something like this. Yeah. And now if I reload the page, boom, access error request failed with status code 44 not fair. Okay. Mhm. So response. Okay. So inside this response, inside dot then handler, uh, they want me to only get this cons nodes is equal to this data, and they are console logging nodes. So inside this browser, I will only get my data tree, which is this content browser get and post. Okay, moving on to the next. We can finally begin using the data fetch from the server. Okay, let me read this. So, the data written by the server is plain text, basically just one long string. The Axios library is still able to parse the data into JavaScript array. Since the server has specified that the data format is application slash session, character set UTF-8, see the previous image, using the content type header, we can finally begin using the data fetch from the server. Let's try and request the nodes from our local server and render them initially as the app component. Please note that this approach has many issues as we are rendering the entire application component only when we successfully retrieve a response. So inside in this method could be acceptable in some circumstances, but it's somewhat problematic. Let's instead move the fetching of the data into the app component. So what they want me to do is inside my app component, they want me to put this. Uh no, I think inside the main here. Let's see. Uh Load it. No, I don't think I got the data. Uh, uh, Axios.get from this response. I'm getting the nodes from the response. Then I'm rendering inside the app. I'm passing the app, and inside it I will have some props. Yeah. Uh, Rather than props, let me give nodes and also look nodes and uh, I don't know. Yeah. Let me first remove this file. Okay, now inside this, they want me to, this method could be accepted in some form, but it's somewhat problematic. Let's instead move the patching of the data into an app component. What's not immediately obvious, however, is where the command execute should be placed within the component. In fact, hooks. We have already used state hooks that were introduced along with the React version 16, which provide state to React components defined as function, the so-called functional component. In version 16.8, also introduced effect hooks as a new feature as per the official document. Effects let a component connect to and synchronize with external systems. This includes dealing with network, browser DOM, animations, widgets written using a different UI library, and other non-React code. As such, effect hooks are precisely the right tool to use when fetching data from a server. Let's remove the fetching of data from main.jsx since we are going to be retrieving the nodes from the server. There is no longer a need to pass data as props to the app component, so main.jsx can be simplified to this only. Yep. For that, I would like to comment this out. Example of data fetching. Then I would like to do this. Okay. The app component changes as follow. So so they want me to inside my app component. What they want me to do is is that notes. Now they want me to use effect as well. So let's use effect, and now I will import Axios from Axios. Finally, I feel like a content developer. Okay. Now I will use const notes, set notes. What I will use state and the array. I removed it, the notes part and all of that. Inside my app component, I'm using use effect. You know what? I would like to type it out. Let's put this inside and this one inside. Let me do this. So what we are exactly doing is here use effect a function, then another anonymous function object. We are logging the effect if this function runs or not. Then I will use axios dot get to fetch data from the backend in this URI. Then I will get the response, and I will console log the response data. Uh, 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 Log data, and even before that, I would like to console log promise fulfilled. Okay. Uh, then I will use inside this use back set nodes to restore data. Okay. And here I am passing an empty array as an initial state or something like that. Then what I will do is console log render nodes dot length nodes. Okay, I understood. We have also added a few helpful prints. I mean, I don't have components node, so I'm sure it's gonna give me an error. But let's see. Let me read this through. What exactly it's like calling it. First, the body of the function defining the component is executed, and the component is rendered for the first time. At this point, render zero nodes is printed. You know what? Let me quickly get the commit in which I use the nodes. I think this is the last node feature inside. Um, uh, 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 so let me quickly do this. Damn, browser file at this point, and I would like to just copy the app.jsx. Okay, inside this src app.jsx. Let me quickly copy the app.jsx, and then let me put it here. Okay, now inside the nodes component, let me render it node.jsx, and bam. Now let me see if I got anything or any issue. Can read progress of reading map undefined add app. Okay, so 40 inside 40 note to show cursor show all notes, use proper notes. Okay, yeah, right. Since I'm not passing props anymore, let's remove this. Mhm. Okay. So I got the data. Uh, Now I can see it again. So they want me to use effect, use effect, and then Axios, Axios, and in the nodes component, now want me to use this, and after this, I wonder if I can use quickly. So inside it, I will have console log effect and get, in which I will have my backend nodes, and inside dot then I will have my rest. So I will choose a promise fulfill. Then I will use const nodes as rest data, and I will console log nodes. Then I will set nodes as this as uh, as nodes. Okay, so why Axios is giving me error? Da, 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 da. Okay, all of this is inside an object. What the hell, man? Let me clear this out and type it again. So inside this, I will have console log effect get to host 3001 nodes. Then I will use then. Inside then I'll have my response. I will have promise fulfill. Then I will use a const nodes is equal to response to data. Then I will use set nodes as a nodes. Boom. And here I will pass empty array, and all of them after that I will have render nodes dot length. Let me see what exactly happened. Okay, Something interesting is already happening. Let me reload this. Boom. Render 0 nodes. Effect promise fulfilled. Render 3 nodes. If I say done and save, now render 4 nodes. Okay. So, why render 3 nodes uh, rendered on each key? This could run, this main app component ran so many times. Let's see. We also added a few helpful prints which clarifies. Before that, let me add all this. Add previous notes exercise. First, the body of the function defining the component is executed and the component is rendered for the first time. At this point, render 0 nodes is printed, meaning the data hasn't been fetched from the server yet. The following function or effect in React parlance, zero response data, is executed immediately after rendering. The execution of the function results in effect being printed to the console, and the command executes.get initiates the fetching of data from the server as well as registers the following function as an event handler to the for the operation. When data arrives from the server, the JavaScript runtime calls the function register as the event handler, which prints promise fulfilled to the console and stores the nodes received from the server into the state using the function set nodes response data. As always, a call to state updating function triggers the re-rendering of the command. As a result, render 3 nodes is printed to the console and the nodes fetched from the server are rendered to the screen. Finally, let's take a look at the definition of the effect hook as a whole. Use effect. This is. Let's rewrite the code a bit differently this time. Axios get. Okay, so all the code move and stored inside a hook function, and I'm passing the function inside that. Okay, okay. Const hook is equal to anonymous function, and inside that, all of my code will be there. Yeah, and I will be passing this hook function here. But what I'm doing is I'm just writing name, not actually calling it. I'm just passing the hook function. Now we can see more clearly that the function uses vec takes two parameters. The first is a function, the effect itself, according to the documentation. By default, effects run after every completed render, but you can choose to fire it only when certain values have changed. So by default, the effect is always run after the component has been rendered. In our case, however, we only want to execute the effect along with the first render. The second parameter of use effect is used to specify how often the effect is run. If if the second parameter is an empty, then the effect is only run along with the first render of the component. There are many possible use cases for an effect hook other than fetching data from the server. However, this use is sufficient for us for now. Think back to the sequences of events we just discussed. Which part of the code are run in what order? How often? Understanding the order of events is critical. Note that we could have also written the code for the effect function this way. Uh, use effect setup dependency is reactor that lets you synchronize a component with an external system. Okay, so I guess I now have my exercise. Let's see, this is a really important part. So I am thinking of going through all this React code in tomorrow's stream. Let's see this effect looks. Let's clearly get what exactly it is and what exactly it does. Okay, just let me. Okay, okay. So I guess, folks, I'm ending the stream today only here because I think this is might be really important, and we should get this on the first thing in the tomorrow morning. So yeah, and also I am very excited to like go through use effect. So tomorrow's stream will be all about use effects. So seat your belt. This will be fun. Okay, this is it.